Every time there's something going on in my life, which, if you're an entrepreneur and you're a business owner and you're an emerging leader and you're doing big things and you're leveling up and living your best life and you're becoming that 10.0 version of yourself that God has called us to be, there is going to be chaos.
One thing that brought me to Level Up and Live, and I want to continue to be a servant, but I'm also excited to be in a place to work on me.
Welcome back to the Level Up and Live podcast, the podcast for business owners and emerging leaders who want to grow without losing what matters most. I'm your host, Sean Meyers. Today, I'm joined by Bryan Rennell, Senior Vice President at Rennell Associates, co-founder of BassTech Marine, LLC, and former president of the Conroe Noon Lions Club. Bryan's story is about leadership, faith, and the power of building both people and projects that last. Bryan, great to have you in the studio, brother.
Thanks, Sean. Appreciate it. Excited.
Absolutely, man. Well, walk us back. So a lot of our audience, entrepreneurs and business owners, we want to find out who Bryan Rennell is. So 27 years in the industry. What was the entry point and what motivated you early on to get to where you are today?
Well, let's see. Once I had graduated college, I went to work for Kubota Manufacturing as an R&D engineer, having spent my life prior to that as summer jobs and whatnot in the construction industry. Never was a person that worked in fast food or anything like that, but we spent 9 years in Georgia, started our family, and during that time, my dad, Larry Rennell, had started Rennell Associates, and he had been in the construction project management, construction development industry, civil engineer his entire career. And he needed help. And so it was about the time that my wife and I were making a decision. Either we were staying in Georgia or we had an opportunity to come home to Texas. And so we took that opportunity, and that was, 20 years ago. Came back home to Texas, went to work for Rennell Associates, and have been in that construction project management field since then, primarily commercial construction. And we knew when we had come back to Texas that we didn't want to be back in the Cy-Fair area where I had grown up, which was great disappointment to my mom and a lot of her teacher friends because they wanted my kids in their school. Yeah. But we thought, well, we'll be on the north side. It puts us a little bit closer to East Texas where my wife's parents are. We landed in the Woodlands for a few years, but we had always wanted to be where we had a little bit of space so the kids could do 4-H and those things. So that brought us up to Montgomery in the Conroe area. And eventually we moved our Rennell Associates office out of downtown, out of the warehouse district down there and up to Conroe. And so that landed me in Conroe office-wise 10 some odd years ago. And then from there, just getting to know people in the community. It's an awesome community and welcoming people and getting to know them. And that got me eventually hooked up with the Lions Club, which I've done for several years, which then led me to a mutual friend of ours that led me to level up and live. So here we are today. the Cliff Note version, I guess.
Yeah, I love that. Well, through that process and through your journey, a lot of business owners and entrepreneurs, we experience trials and tribulations. We experience life. We experience the ups and the downs, the failures, the mistakes. And what I have learned as an entrepreneur myself is what is the fastest way to learn to get to where you want to go is go down the road that somebody's already down, whether it's a business owner in any area of life, health, relationships, spirituality, business, and learn from those that are actually doing and learn from their failures and mistakes. And I'm curious with you, Bryan, what was one early failure or pivotal moment for you that has shaped your leadership style to help you get to where you are today?
I'm not going to call it a failure really, but I remember being in college and taking a class in entrepreneurship, and I guess at that point I always felt like I wanted to work for myself or work in a small business, primarily work for myself, I guess. and going into the corporate world, big corporate world with Kubota, multinational company. And I was moving up, but I guess not at the pace that I thought that I should or wanted to, and not having the opportunities to lead people like I wanted to. And so I wouldn't call it a failure, but some of that culture that was there, I guess, had me make the decision to come back and go to work with my father in a small entrepreneurial business, which has been great. It then allows us to focus more on the individual, instead of getting lost, one of hundreds and ultimately thousands around the world. And I like that. I like that closeness and having more of a personal relationship with people that you're working with.
Now, you previously served as president of the Conroe Noon Lions Club here locally in Montgomery County. And when you'd reached out to Micah, and then Micah shared with us and the leadership team at Level Up and Live, he said, "Hey, Bryan, president of Conroe Noon Lions Club, former, is interested in coming into the Level Up and Live." Now, this is before I had met you. I was like, that's interesting. The former president of the Conroe Noon Lions Club is interested in coming into Level Up and Live. Let's go. And I was super excited. And you had reached out to Micah that morning and then had shown up that same morning. And then fast forward 5 weeks later. Now, and I haven't got a chance to ask you this or when I've met with you, but what led you into that community leadership role? Because I mean, you were leading several dozens, if not hundreds, leaders.
Yeah,
and then
about 300 members.
300 members, and then you also went to internationally and represented Montgomery County.
I did.
Yeah,
I did. So had the opportunity to do that. So a good friend of mine that actually we just lost, his name was Polo Lacoste. He another entrepreneur and local businessman and Marine. He's my neighbor's father, and I happened to meet him at a fundraiser that we were attending one evening, and he just invited me to come to the Lions Club. He told me a little bit about it, and I thought, well, that sounds pretty interesting. And I had never, at that point, this is probably, they'll kill me if I don't know the exact date, but this was 6 or 7 years ago, probably close to 8 years ago now. And I'd never really been a part of a service organization outside of church at that point. We had done the Sunday school teachers and yoke fellow and building committees and all that kind of thing, but never really served outside the church. So I went and was intimidated, to walk into a room of 125 people at a lunch, and the Lions Club is made up of some of the greatest people in this area. All entrepreneurs, business owners, business leaders, city, state, county leaders, and he had told me, "You're going to meet some of your best friends here." And I was like, "Yeah, right. I mean, I don't know any of these people, and I hardly know you, to be honest with you, at this point." But we got in, and he got me engaged, just like anything, Sean. And Level Up and Live or church or anything's the same way. You get out of it what you put into it, right?
That's right.
You've got to lean into it, and so Polo immediately got me involved in the Hometown Hero Project, where we honor a veteran. But that got me involved in committees. And then I was asked to serve on another one. And so then I think some of my project management experience kicked in, and they said, well, this guy can run committees, fundraisers, that kind of thing. So then, I've been in the club for just a brief time, 2 or 3 years, and I was asked to run as assistant secretary. So I agreed. They asked, needed help. And that kind of puts you on the path to future leadership of the club by doing that. Well, the next year rolled around, and ultimately I didn't serve as secretary. They asked me to run for president, or actually to run for third vice president. So this is a multi-year process. We talked to my wife about it. We prayed about it, but I told the guys, I said, listen, I did not come to this club to seek leadership or to seek out recognition, I came to serve. That's what I wanted to do. I love to serve other people. And so, but if you need me, I will agree to it. And so I did. And so I then third, second, first vice president, and then ultimately president. So it's a 4-year commitment there. And then immediate past president, there's some duties as well with that. But it was just out of service. It's which led me to it. And I did that in a relatively short period of time to be so new to the club. But I was very humbled that community of people trusted me and asked me to serve them. So that's how I ended up there.
Wow, that's 4 years commitment. Did they get you to did you sign an agreement, or was it just like a verbal commitment?
No, there's no agreement there or anything. There's some, you've got bylaws and different qualifications, and they want you to have served on committees and served on the board, before somebody's asked to run for president. I was a little bit of the exception. Typically, we want those people that are first voted in as third VP to have served as treasurer or secretary of the club, or at least served on the board. There's a couple of other positions. I had only served as assistant secretary, so they came to me that next year and asked me to run. So, and I won and loved it.
When you went through the process and then you built the relationships, and what I'm hearing you say is that you were a servant leader. You were expecting nothing in return. And just what I've gotten to know about you the last 5 or 6 weeks is you've leaned in, you've gotten curious, you've shown up week after week after week, and you've poured into other people. And to me, that's servant leadership, getting comfortable, getting uncomfortable, being on the podcast today. And to me, that right there, it doesn't surprise me, right? Because leadership is earned. You continue to show up.
Right.
So I'm not surprised. Right. And for our listeners and audience too, that's something to be learned and taken away from, in your actions.
Right. Absolutely. But I will tell you this, one thing that brought me to Level Up and Live, and I want to continue to be a servant, but I'm also excited to be in a place to work on me.
Yes. Key ingredient, man. Yeah, because 99.9% of the time, when you're an individual like you and me, and a lot of our listeners and audience as well, we pour into other people. We pour into our kids, our customers, our community, everybody around us, and then we get the leftovers. Well, What I have learned is I did that for 35 plus years, and it sounds like you've got some experience doing that as well. And I know a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners do that. Well, let's fill our tank first. Let's fill our tank first so we can give that much more. And when you do that, you're not pouring from an empty tank. You're pouring from fulfillment. You're pouring from purpose. You're pouring from getting to where you want to go. So you're helping other people get to where they want to go, so you can get to where you want to go. And it's when you have that alignment, man, it's a beautiful place to be. So yeah, that's hope. Now, we've talked about you've worn many hats. You're been a corporate leader, you're entrepreneur. We hadn't even tapped into the BassTech, your community builder, like, Conroe Noon Lions Club. How do you stay centered in who you are through it all?
So it's a challenge. It seems like I've got too many irons in the fire right now. It's been a challenge. You've got to, you have to stay focused on your goals and on your family and your business. And there's been a lot of days, a lot of late days, and continuing to give to others. It's I think it's just by the grace of God, because I got, finished up with the Lions Club, and I look back now, I'm like, how did I do that the last 4 years and still maintain a business? But it had to have been God, leading and guiding, even if sometimes you forget that or don't realize that. That's all I could attribute it to, really, because it's been a challenge. So I'm glad to have done that. I'm glad to now focus our time back on our business and get focused in on that.
I love that. One of the things, a couple of things that really stuck out to me when you're sharing that is like centering around God and Jesus and being a Christ follower. And it's not always easy. And we have our challenges, our obstacles, and the things that we're going through. And I think what's also important that I've learned too is surrounding yourself with a community like what you're experiencing, with Level Up and Live. Is giving permission and creating a safe place, whether it's around a round table, whether it's on a podcast, whether it's at coffee, at a run club, and having that safe place where you can hold that other person to higher standards. And words are so powerful. I have learned that. It's like words are so powerful. And if people, men like me and you, Bryan, are doing it from a place of kindness, love, humility, and grace, what's happening is whatever you're going through in life, whatever I'm going through in life, whatever our viewers and business owners are going through in life and people that we're speaking into, we go through that as well. And from my experience is because it's caught, not taught. So you're like, man, I'm not alone in this process. I have been isolated, because we as men, we isolate ourselves. And it's so easy to back away from everything, from God, from a community, from our family, from our relationships. And that's doing hard things. That's getting comfortable, getting uncomfortable. And I believe I'm a child of God, and there's so much untapped potential in here. And I want other people to speak into me when I am down. And to me, that accountability, that iron sharpens iron, is very, very dangerous and very exciting.
Yeah, 100%.
So I want people to feel that. I want people to receive that and live that. And not everybody will, but it's here, and it's here for people if they want it, right?
Right.
So you've lived in Montgomery County since 2009, correct?
I think that's about right. Yes.
Okay. And I wanted to tap into this a little bit because you're an outdoors guy. You love being on the lake. How do your hobbies and BassTech, if you want to talk about that for a second, and time on Lake Conroe fuel your leadership and mindset and how you show up today in your servant leadership?
Well, if you're talking about the outdoors, which is something important to me, I've always grown up hunting and fishing and being in the outdoors, or when we were in Georgia, mountain biking or hiking, or whatever it may be. It truly brings you closer to God. It just does. It's such, you see His creation.
Yeah. Mm. So when you're out there on the water and you're fishing, and it's just you, the water, the bait, the line, the fishing pole, and your son, and then you see God's creation out there.
Oh yeah. You get to watch the sunrises. You get to see and experience more than just the fishing, or more than just a hunt. The stillness, the other birds, the interactions of just with other people, I guess. It's so, and you have, especially on the hunting side, Sean, to me, it gives you an appreciation and respect for life.
Mm. Yeah.
Which may be odd to sound, if you're a hunter and you're talking about life, but there's a respect there, and that it's another creation, and it just, I don't know, it just helps keep me grounded, I think. Yeah. Just get lost in the fray.
Yeah.
So so I enjoy those hobbies and activities. And you've talked about BassTech Marine, mentioned it a couple of times. If you will, my son and I started that about 5 years ago as a side business, and that's what we do, that, and we continue to do that outside of our current venture in the construction industry. But we'll continue to do that. Probably not necessarily as a full-time deal, but it allows us to stay involved in that hobby, if you will. It also gives me an opportunity to use my hands and sometimes just get quiet and see something from start to finish, and stay connected with that community of people. All the outdoorsmen out there, we love them and enjoy what they do. Love interacting with people and staying up on technology too. So it's fun.
Well, you have your son you'd mentioned that works with you alongside of you at BassTech, and then I know that's a hobby for now, and then you're gearing your focus, going all in on Rennell Associates, and that's, you've got your daughter a part of that, and you've got your son a part of that as well. How is that relationship with that family business? Because I know, my mom works at my insurance company, and it's tough, man. It's challenging, and it's not easy. But I'm curious on father daughter and son business. Like, what have you learned from building something together as a family?
Yeah, so of course, I've gotten that a lot over the years. Like, man, how do you work with your dad, or other families? Somebody else's mom, or would be like, oh man, my son and my husband could never work together. Mm-hmm. So my dad and I've always had a really good working relationship. Respect the hell out of him. Pardon my French, but really do. And so we've had a good working relationship. But then bringing my kids into it, especially Carson and I, with the BassTech Marine and now with Rennell Construction, he and I have heck, we've been fishing partners and hunting partners and all of that. And I'm not going to say that we're best friends. He's still my son and I'm still his dad. But when we get into business, I treat it as business, and he does too. Yeah. You don't have to talk to me like I'm your dad. Yeah. You don't have to not speak up or not do something or not suggest something because you don't want to offend me or step over me. We're in business together. So I try hard to keep that relationship separate. And so far, it's worked out great. And I think, he's always been a guy that can, ever since he was growing up, could always interact and speak well with adults. He's not intimidated by people. I think all those years on the pitching mound probably helped with that. And then my daughter, she's an entrepreneur herself, but has a degree in film and digital media, and has spent some time marketing and doing all that. And so she doesn't necessarily work directly for us, but we hire her to build websites for us. And you and I were visiting earlier, getting Google Business Sheets taken care of, photography, all of that. So and helps guide us there. And so we just have honest conversations about here's what needs to be done, and I trust them. I know that they make good decisions. So if that's what Catherine says needs to be done from the marketing side, then that's what we're going to do. Yeah. Same thing with Carson. What's your dreams and aspirations for this? And that's, we're going to build it together.
I can feel the energy. I know it's, from a leadership standpoint, I know how powerful that is. And I want our listeners and audience to be able to feel that as well. Because you can go, we shared this recently in the mastermind group, you can go fast. You can go fast alone, but you can go further together.
Yeah.
And what I'm hearing you say is, with your son and your daughter, they're the right people in the right seats. And your daughter doing the marketing, helping with Google My Business. Think about if you had to do that. The time, energy, and effort. I said nope.
Yeah. have finally learned, and my wife's probably pretty happy that I'm not necessarily trying to do everything myself, whether that's at the house or from a business side. You need help, and you need qualified people, and you need to put them in place and trust them.
Yes, man, my resting heart rate just went down.
Yeah.
So that's definitely worth noting for all of our listeners is relinquish that control. They will but Sean, Bryan, they'll never do it like me. You may be right, but 80% done is 100% awesome. You know?
Yeah.
So, and our job as leaders, in my belief, is like what I was telling you before the podcast episode is if they're at 80%, and they're getting the job done, then our job, in my opinion, is to help them improve. How can they get to 81%? How can they get to 80%? And if they're in the right role, they're the right person because they have the values, the mission, the vision, and the principles, and they're in the right seat, they're going to be doing it better than us, like your daughter, your son. And then it's our job as leaders to empower them and kind of paint where we're going. What's the mission? What's the vision?
We hope they do, don't we?
100%. 100%. Now, for entrepreneurs feeling overwhelmed or pulled in several different directions by wearing multiple hats and not relinquishing control, what advice would you share from your journey from 30,000 feet? We've covered a lot today, but I'm just curious on that person that's feeling overwhelmed right now or just wearing multiple hats. Man, he's struggling and he's pulled in so many directions. What would that be, that one piece of advice you would share from your journey and your experience?
You've got to keep yourself grounded in God. We've talked about that. I haven't done that as well as I should have. And you get caught up in trying to do things yourself. And I know everybody says this, but guys, I'm living that right now. And it's such a help these last 5 or 6 weeks. You've got to turn it over, and you've got to, pray for help and guidance and wisdom.
Yeah.
And you'll be surprised. Yesterday was pretty interesting. Had 3 or 4 different fires, but I knew they were coming a little bit. There was a couple of surprises. Prayed about it that morning. Was able to take those things, handle them. I had confidence. Sometimes I wondered, where did it come from? You'll get the answer. Yep. You'll get the confidence, and you'll move through those issues. And when I say, I'm talking, I had a BassTech issue. I had a construction issue. I had a Rennell Associates issue. So yes, I had wearing multiple hats, switching them back and forth throughout the day. But pray for that strength and wisdom and guidance, and it'll come. And don't let yourself get overwhelmed, because if you try to do it yourself, you're going to get frustrated. And I know that sounds like a simple answer, but it's true.
Yeah, I agree with you 1,000%. And if that one person takes and it heeds that advice and takes a step back, meditates on it, prayer, takes a deep breath, and tells this too shall pass. That's why this too shall pass. And what I'm hearing you say, Bryan, is also don't react in the moment. So it's easy when these problems arise. It's like easy to react in the moment, get our emotions involved, anger, frustration, lonely, tired, sad, depressed. And we make all these decisions and we react off of our emotions. Well, emotion, what you've just displayed is, what would Jesus do in that moment? Well, it's like the story of him out in the seas and then the boat, and then it's storms all around him and waves and clashing and just chaos all around us. But he comes out and goes, what's going on?
Yeah.
Every time there's something going on in my life, which, if you're an entrepreneur and you're a business owner and you're an emerging leader and you're doing big things and you're leveling up and living your best life and you're becoming that 10.0 version of yourself that God has called us to be, there is going to be chaos.
Yes, there is.
And you have 2 choices. One, you can continue to fear, doubt, emotion, all these feelings, and and drive your decisions based off of that. Or you can go, what would Jesus do in this situation? Cool, calm, collective, prayer, meditate, emotional intelligence. And that's what I'm hearing you say, man. Brilliant advice.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
100%. So easy just to dive into all the what ifs. If you've got a issue going on, don't do it.
Well, and it's like yesterday,
don't focus
right?
on that.
100%. It's like yesterday. You're in it, and you're not at a round table. And I think that's why it's so important, the community and talking it out, and being able to send a text or jump on a quick phone call and be like, man, this is what I'm experiencing, and then you hear it from the other person, and it's not, it's almost like it's confirmation, like, oh, you're not alone. This too shall pass, and just having those reminders. On a daily, weekly basis, man. And that's, ultimately what the operations manual, that's the Bible. It's the operations manual. It's like, okay, well, this is what I'm experiencing. Let me go to the Bible and type up some scripture, Google, and find out how to deal with this. Because I don't know how to deal with this, but scripture does. The operations manual does. Yes. And it's been a game changer for me as well. So, well, Bryan, thank you for showing up and sharing what authentic leadership looks like, man. The blend of experience, the service, your servant leadership, your heart. You can tell you're coming from a good place. You've built teams, led communities clearly, and you've really stayed grounded in faith and family. And that, to me, is what real leadership looks like. So just want to acknowledge you, man, for being who you are. Keep showing up and plugging yourself in. And I just want to thank you for your time today on the Level Up and Live podcast.
Thank you, Sean, very much. I've enjoyed it. This is a new experience for me, but thank you very much for the conversation. I really enjoyed it, and I'm really, really enjoying Level Up and Live and just diving into it. And I can't wait for this Friday. So,
amen to that, brother. Well, I know we're going to impact this episode right here is going to impact hundreds, not thousands of lives. It's nothing but valuable, just your story in itself. So to all of our listeners, make sure you take one lesson away from Bryan's story today and what he's shared. Maybe it's how he's built, his business and in community, or how he finds peace in chaos and in purpose out, in Lake Conroe. Whatever it is, just make sure you go out and apply it. Take one thing away. Outside of that, Bryan, how can our community at Level Up and Live, how can we support you, man?
How can the Level Up and Live community support me? I think you guys just keep doing what you're doing, man. It's an awesome group of people, and it's so wonderful to come into a group that's Christian based, that we can not only share Christ and His leadership, but just pure business questions and concerns and turmoils as well, and do that in a safe space, if you will, somewhere, that you, with guys that you can trust, guys and gals that you can trust, that or you're going to get some, you're not just going to have a bunch of yes men either. You may get but continue doing what you're doing, giving the tough love when necessary, giving the affirmations when necessary, and just excited to continue with the group and get more involved, Sean.
Amen. There you have it, folks. We'll also drop the links in the show notes so you can connect with Bryan and learn more about his work at Rennell Associates and BassTech Marine. If this episode encouraged you, share it. This is how we grow and impact more people. Leave a review and subscribe so we can bring more stories just like this to you. Until next time, stay on mission, lead with purpose, and keep leveling out without losing yourself. Thanks again, Bryan.